This is the oldest temple unearthed anywhere on this planet.
For 2,000 years, it seemed impossible. A Jewish temple in Jerusalem, with a golden Islamic dome sitting exactly where it needs to be built? Impossible. Until 2025. Now watch what's happening all at once. Red heifers cleared for sacrifice. Priestly garments finished. Temple blueprints approved. Tunnels expanding beneath the mount. Netanyahu signing agreements nobody saw coming. Trump's son-in-law brokering deals in private. And a discovery underground that Israeli officials won't talk about. Every piece needed for the third temple is moving into position simultaneously. Not over decades, over months. Bible prophecy scholars are calling it unprecedented. And what's buried beneath the Temple Mount is the final piece of a puzzle that's been unsolved for 70 AD. Here's what makes 2025 different from every other year in modern history. We're not watching one development. We're watching 7 major developments happening at the same time. And nobody in mainstream media is connecting the dots. Let me walk you through what's really happening beneath the surface in Jerusalem, and why what comes next could change the Middle East forever. But first, you need to understand what's at stake. Because the Temple Mount isn't just real estate. It's ground zero for 3 world religions. And what happens there could trigger events the Bible predicted thousands of years ago. 35 acres in the heart of Jerusalem's old city. That's all it is, a platform of stone sitting above ancient bedrock. But those 35 acres might be the most contested ground on planet Earth. For Jews, this is Har Habayit, the Temple Mount, the holiest site in Judaism. This is where Abraham bound Isaac, where Solomon built the first temple, where God's presence dwelt in the Holy of Holies for centuries. When the second temple stood here, 1 million Jews came for Passover, every year, from across the Roman Empire. Then in 70 AD, Rome destroyed it all. The temple burned, the stones were thrown down, just like Jesus predicted. And for 2,000 years, there's been no temple, no sacrifices, no Holy of Holies. The Jewish people scattered across the world, praying toward this spot. Next year in Jerusalem. For 2 millennia, they said it. But today, 2 massive Islamic structures dominate the platform. The Dome of the Rock, with its golden dome, built in 691 AD. Al-Aqsa Mosque, built in 705 AD. For Muslims, this is Al-Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, the third holiest site in Islam, where Muhammad ascended to heaven during his night journey. Both religions claim the same ground. Both consider it non-negotiable. And that's the problem. Because here's what prophecy demands. There will be a third temple. Not maybe, not symbolically, actually, physically, in Jerusalem. 2 Thessalonians 2:4 describes the Antichrist who sitteth in the temple of God, shewing himself that he is God. Can't sit in a temple that doesn't exist. Daniel 9:27 describes sacrifices happening in the middle of a 7-year period, then stopping. Can't have sacrifices without a temple. The Bible requires it. Current reality forbids it. That's the paradox. Until now. Because something changed in 2024. And what's happening beneath the Temple Mount is just the beginning.
March 14th, 2025. A video goes viral on Israeli social media. 47 seconds of shaky camera footage. A tunnel beneath Jerusalem's old city. Ancient stone walls. And a doorway. Massive. Sealed. With marks that archaeologists say match Herodian construction. Within 6 hours, the video is scrubbed from major platforms. The Israeli Antiquities Authority issues a statement. Unauthorized filming in restricted archaeological areas. Armed guards appear at tunnel entrances that were previously open to tourists, but the damage is done. Screenshots spread, frame-by-frame analysis, and what people see raises questions the government won't answer. Here's what we know for certain. There are miles of tunnels beneath the Temple Mount complex. Some are documented. The Western Wall Tunnel, opened in 1996, runs 1,600 feet along the original retaining wall. The Hasmonean Tunnel connects to the Via Dolorosa. Warren's Gate, sealed since 1981, leads directly toward where the Holy of Holies once stood. But there are other tunnels, ones not on the tourist maps. Palestinian officials have been warning about them for months. In October 2024, the Jerusalem governorate issued urgent statements. They described intricate networks reaching 12 to 14 meters deep beneath Al-Aqsa Mosque. They showed cracks appearing in buildings in Silwan. They accused Israel of creating conditions for structural collapse. Israel denies this. Archaeological excavations, they say, standard procedure, professionally supervised. So who's right? Here's what's not in dispute. Excavation has accelerated dramatically since mid-2024. Areas sealed for decades are suddenly accessible to researchers with military-level security clearances. And when workers break through sealed chambers, documentation disappears into classified files. Rabbi Yehuda Glick, a Temple Mount activist, said something revealing in a January 2025 interview. We're not just looking for artifacts, we're looking for the foundation, the exact location, because when the time comes, we need to know precisely where to build. The exact location, that's the key phrase. Because here's what most people don't understand. Nobody knows for certain where the original Holy of Holies stood. The Dome of the Rock might be on it, or slightly north or south. Get the location wrong, and you've built a ritually invalid temple. Get it right, and you've solved the biggest obstacle to construction. And those tunnels? They're not just archaeological curiosity. They're surveying, measuring, mapping ancient foundations that GPS can't penetrate. But the tunnels are only part of the preparation, because above ground, something even more significant is happening with animals that haven't been seen in 2,000 years. Numbers 19, the ordinance of the red heifer. God gave Moses specific instructions. Take a red cow, completely red, no spots, no blemishes, never yoked for work. Slaughter it. Burn it completely. Mix the ashes with water and use it to purify anyone who touched death. Without this purification ritual, priests can't serve in the temple. Without purified priests, sacrifices can't be offered. Without sacrifices, there's no functioning temple. For 2,000 years, this was a theoretical problem. No temple meant no need for red heifers. But in September 2022, 5 red heifers were flown from Texas to Israel. Texas cattle ranchers working with the Temple Institute had been breeding specifically for this purpose. The heifers arrived. Jewish and Christian prophecy watchers exploded with speculation. Was this it? The final piece? Then complications. By July 2025, inspections began revealing problems. 2 black hairs disqualified one heifer. More were found on others. By August, all 5 Texas imports were formally rejected. The ritual requires perfection. Even 3 non-red hairs exceeds the limit. It seemed like the whole project had collapsed. Except it hadn't. Because here's what happened quietly. 4 additional heifer candidates were identified at a breeding facility in Shiloh. These weren't imports. These were Israeli-raised animals, monitored from birth. And in February 2025, preliminary inspections showed promise. The Temple Institute issued a carefully worded statement. We are closer than we have ever been to having a kosher para aduma, the real red heifer, not the Texas heifers, new ones. And they've been training for the ritual. July 2024 saw a complete practice run. A disqualified heifer was used. The entire ceremony performed on the Mount of Olives with a direct view of the Temple Mount. Kohanim, verified descendants of the priestly line conducted every step. The timing, the wood, the burning, everything documented. Rabbi Azariah Ariel, who oversees the project, said something revealing in March. The window for the ritual is opening. Spring 2026 aligns with certain calendaric and agricultural requirements. If we have a qualified heifer by then, we proceed. Spring 2026, that's 14 months away as of this recording. And Benjamin Netanyahu knows it because he just made a move that connects directly to these timelines. A move involving someone most people wouldn't expect.
Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, the man who architected the Abraham Accords, the man who maintained relationships with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, even when others in Washington wouldn't. The man who, according to reports from Israeli media in January 2025, has been in quiet dialogue with both the Temple Institute and Gulf state leaders about what one source called creative solutions to shared sacred space. Kushner's private equity firm, Affinity Partners, raised $3 billion primarily from Middle Eastern investors, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, the same nations that would have to sign off on any deal involving the Temple Mount. Now here's where it gets interesting. In December 2024, Kushner made a quiet trip to Jerusalem. No press conference, no official statements, but he met with Netanyahu, he met with Palestinian Authority officials, and according to Haaretz, he toured areas near the Temple Mount with members of the Yir Amim Archaeological organization. Why would a private investor be involved in religious site discussions, unless it's not just religious, unless there's a deal being shaped? A deal that involves economic incentives so massive that the impossible becomes negotiable. Daniel 9:27 describes someone who shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. 1 week in prophetic language equals 7 years. A 7-year peace deal made by a skilled negotiator, someone who can bring unprecedented parties to the table. I'm not saying Kushner is the Antichrist. I'm saying watch the pattern. A deal maker with Middle Eastern connections, a man trusted by both American evangelicals and Gulf monarchies, someone positioned to broker what nobody else could broker. And his timing is interesting, because while Kushner works behind closed doors, Netanyahu is making public moves that would have been politically suicidal 5 years ago. Moves that signal Israel is preparing for something much bigger than anyone's admitting. Benjamin Netanyahu has been Prime Minister of Israel for most of the past 15 years. He's a political survivor. He doesn't make reckless moves. Every decision is calculated for maximum advantage and minimum risk. So when Netanyahu started making moves regarding the Temple Mount in late 2024, pay attention, because this isn't recklessness, this is strategy. November 2024. Netanyahu's coalition passes new regulations allowing increased Jewish access to the Temple Mount during specific hours. Not just visiting, designated prayer times. For years, Jews could visit but not pray. That restriction is quietly being eroded. January 2025. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, a hardline religious nationalist, ascends to the Temple Mount with 47 Knesset members, the largest parliamentary delegation ever. Palestinian officials call it a provocation. Ben-Gvir calls it asserting sovereignty. February 2025. The Jerusalem municipality approves infrastructure plans for expanded visitor facilities near the Western Wall. The plans include elevators and walkways that would dramatically increase capacity. Why increase capacity unless you expect far more visitors, perhaps for events that haven't happened yet? March 2025. This is the big one. Netanyahu's government quietly authorizes the Temple Institute to deposit full building blueprints with the Municipal Planning Office, not as a symbolic gesture, as an actual building permit application, the kind that gets reviewed,
the kind that moves through bureaucratic channels. Israel National News reported that the Temple Institute's plans include detailed architectural drawings, environmental impact assessments, and engineering specifications for a structure that could be completed in 3.5 years once groundbreaking begins. 3.5 years. That number keeps appearing. Now, connect the timeline. Red heifer possibly ready by spring 2026. Purification ritual completed. Priests purified and ready. Construction begins shortly after. 3.5 years of construction puts completion around late 2029 or early 2030. And here's the detail that makes prophecy scholars sit up. Daniel 9:27 describes sacrifices happening, then stopping in the midst of the week, halfway through a 7-year period. If sacrifices stop 3.5 years into a 7-year covenant, that means the temple has to be functional before the 7 years begin, or very early in that period. The math is lining up, the pieces are positioning, and Netanyahu, a secular Jew who doesn't personally believe in temple rebuilding, is enabling religious factions who absolutely do. Why? Because his coalition depends on them, because the political pressure from his base demands it, because in Israeli politics right now, the temple question isn't fringe anymore, it's mainstream. But there's still the massive problem, the obstacle that makes all of this seem impossible, until you understand what's changing in geopolitical dynamics right now.
2024 rewrote the Middle Eastern playbook. The Abraham Accords, signed in 2020, started the process. Arab nations normalizing relations with Israel. UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, Sudan. Nations that previously wouldn't acknowledge Israel's existence, suddenly signing peace deals. But 2024 accelerated everything. Saudi Arabia, the custodian of Islam's 2 holiest sites, began serious normalization talks with Israel. Not secret talks, public ones. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman stated openly that Saudi Arabia's future requires economic diversification, technological partnership, and regional stability. And all 3 require cooperation with Israel. Here's what changed the equation. Iran. The Abraham Accords weren't primarily about Israel-Palestine. They were about containing Iran. Sunni Arab states fear Iranian expansion more than they care about Palestinian statehood. That's the brutal truth. And Israel offers what Gulf states desperately need: military technology, intelligence sharing, cyber capabilities, desalination technology, agricultural innovation. In exchange, Israel gets regional acceptance, economic integration, and potentially political cover for moves that previously would have triggered Arab unity against them. Now add the Trump factor. Donald Trump's return to political prominence in 2024-2025 signals to Middle Eastern leaders that American policy will again prioritize deal-making over ideological confrontation. Trump doesn't care about historical grievances. He cares about transactions. What's the deal? What does everyone get? And that approach creates space for thinking previously unthinkable thoughts, like, what if the Temple Mount problem isn't religious? What if it's just another negotiation? Another deal waiting to be structured? What if Saudi Arabia gets security guarantees, nuclear technology, and economic partnerships? What if Palestinians get statehood with expanded territory elsewhere? What if Jordan gets water rights and development funding? What if everyone gets something so valuable that the Temple Mount becomes negotiable? I'm not saying it will happen this way. I'm saying the framework for such a deal exists now in ways it never has before. The relationships, the economic incentives, the political will, the personal connections between leaders who can make calls others can't. And there's one more factor, something discovered beneath the Temple Mount that could change the entire conversation. Something that Israeli officials have been remarkably quiet about. Remember that viral video from March 2025? The sealed doorway and the tunnel beneath the old city? Here's what happened after it was scrubbed from social media. 3 days later, the Israeli Antiquities Authority held a closed-door briefing for select Knesset members. No minutes were published, no official statement released. But one attendee, speaking anonymously to Channel 12 News, said something striking. What they showed us changes our understanding of the temple's foundation structure. We may have been wrong about the location. We may have been wrong about the location. Let that sink in. If archaeological evidence suggests that the Holy of Holies was not directly under the Dome of the Rock, the entire obstacle changes. If the temple can be built 50 meters north or south of the dome, you're not demolishing Islamic holy sites. You're building adjacent to them. Revelation 11, 1-2 describes something fascinating. John is told to measure the temple, but leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles. A temple with a Gentile court, a shared sacred space, different religions in different zones of the same platform. Impossible? It sounds impossible, until archaeological evidence suggests it might be exactly how the Second Temple operated. Different courts, different access levels, Jews in the inner courts, Gentiles in the outer courts, all on the same Temple Mount platform. And if ancient foundations prove the temple can be built without touching the Dome of the Rock, you've removed the primary obstacle to construction. Not the only obstacle, but the biggest one. Israeli officials won't confirm this. They won't deny it either. The silence is deafening. And in Middle Eastern politics, what isn't said often matters more than what is. But even if the location problem is solved, even if political deals are being brokered, there's still the question of timing. Why now? Why this urgency?
Here's what makes 2025 different from any other year in the past 2 millennia. For the first time since 70 AD, every single prerequisite for temple construction exists simultaneously. Let me list them. Archaeological access to the site. Check. Tunnels are being excavated and mapped. Red heifer candidates. Check. Multiple animals under inspection with spring 2026 ritual possibility. Trained priesthood. Check. Over 500 Kohanim trained in temple procedures since 2018. Temple implements. Check. Menorah, altar vessels, priestly garments, all crafted to biblical specifications. Architectural plans. Check. Complete blueprints deposited with Jerusalem municipality. Political will. Check. Coalition government includes parties actively pushing for temple construction. Geopolitical framework. Check. Abraham Accords create regional relationships unthinkable a decade ago. International broker. Check. Figures like Kushner positioned to negotiate the impossible. Never before have all these pieces existed at the same time. Previous generations had some elements, religious zeal without political power, or political power without religious implements, or implements without archaeological knowledge, but never all of it, together, simultaneously, until now. And there's one more element that prophecy watchers are tracking. Israel's 80th anniversary approaches in 2028. In biblical numerology, 80 represents strength, completion of a generation. The generation that saw Israel's rebirth in 1948 is passing. Jesus said in Matthew 24:34, "This generation will not pass away until all these things take place." What generation? The one that sees the fig tree bloom, a prophetic symbol many interpret as Israel's restoration. If the generation that saw Israel reborn is the terminal generation, and human generations biblically span 70 to 80 years, we're at the outer edge of that window. 2028 marks 80 years since 1948. The math creates urgency. Now layer in global instability, wars in Ukraine and Middle East, economic uncertainty, rise of authoritarian leaders who can make decisions quickly without democratic constraints, technological capacity to enforce global systems described in Revelation 13, central bank digital currencies, biometric identification, surveillance infrastructure. Everything needed for the mark of the beast exists today in ways unimaginable even 20 years ago. The pieces aren't just present, they're accelerating, converging, and that convergence is happening in Jerusalem, at the Temple Mount, exactly where prophecy said it would. Daniel 12:4 describes the end times. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Increased travel, increased knowledge. That's our era precisely. And Daniel was told to seal up the book until the time of the end. The seals are breaking, the knowledge is increasing. And what lies beneath the Temple Mount might be the final revelation before everything changes. So where does this leave us? What are we actually watching? We're watching the stage being set, not the final act, not yet, but the props are being moved into position, the actors are taking their marks, the script is being written by forces beyond human politics. Here's what to watch for in the next 12 to 24 months. First, the red heifer decision. If a heifer is confirmed kosher and the ritual performed in spring 2026, that's the starting gun. Purified priests mean temple service becomes possible immediately, not theoretical, actual. Second, archaeological announcements. If Israel confirms findings that change our understanding of the temple's location, watch how quickly international attitudes shift. We're not destroying the Dome of the Rock, we're building next to it, changes the entire conversation. Third, diplomatic movements. Watch for a peace deal, a comprehensive agreement involving Israel, Saudi Arabia, Palestinian territories, and regional powers. Daniel's covenant with many. If someone brokers an agreement that seems to solve the unsolvable, pay very close attention to the details, especially details about Jerusalem, about access, about shared administration of holy sites. Fourth, construction permits. If Jerusalem municipality approves the Temple Institute's building application, even conditionally, that's a massive signal. Bureaucratic approval for the prophetically significant. Fifth, global reaction. When these moves happen, watch how the nations respond. Revelation 11:9 describes people from the peoples, tribes, tongues, and nations watching events in Jerusalem. For the first time in history, global real-time media makes this literally possible. When the temple rises, the whole world will watch it live. We don't know the exact timeline. We don't know precisely how the Dome of the Rock obstacle gets resolved. We don't know which leader will confirm the covenant, but we know the direction, we know the destination, and we know we're closer than we've ever been. 2 Thessalonians 2:3 warns that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. He sits in the temple. Not a symbolic temple, not a spiritual temple, the temple, in Jerusalem, on the Temple Mount, where preparations are happening right now. Every generation of Christians has wondered if they were the last. Most were wrong. But every generation that was wrong didn't have what we have. They didn't have Israel restored. They didn't have Jerusalem under Jewish control. They didn't have red heifers. They didn't have priestly training. They didn't have temple implements. They didn't have the technology for global surveillance and economic control. They didn't have all the pieces. We do. And what lies beneath the Temple Mount, the foundations, the chambers, the discoveries yet to be announced, might be the final piece that makes the impossible become inevitable. The question isn't if anymore. The question is when, and how much time is left.